What's up guys, it's USA Specialist, and today we're ranking every Battlefield Specialist.
Put one down.
With no country left to fight
for. The U.S. and Russia are both being accused of fielding armed no-pats in an escalating fight over vital resources.
Now, I've seen a few creators post their rankings over the years, but as we hit 2024 and the meta is more settled, I wanted to take a shot at it myself. In general, I think most of the characters are pretty well balanced, so I can see a case for a number of different rankings. But with a playstyle that focuses around team support and close quarters engagements, I definitely have my top picks, and a few I stay far away from. So drop your rankings below, hit subscribe, and let's get into it. Starting at the very bottom, I gotta go with Crawford. In general, the engineer kit is the weakest in my opinion, and Crawford tries to invoke a power fantasy that simply doesn't work. While his turret can be useful on Redacted, and his trait can be nice when using rockets, overall Crawford is a lackluster character that doesn't give you any meaningful advantages, nor does he provide a useful gadget outside of very specific moments on a very specific map. Just ahead of Crawford, also in D, I have to put Boris. While his automated turret can be helpful to cover your back and gather information, his proficiency in LMGs, limited number of anti-tank rockets, and useless passive trait really makes him objectively worse than almost everyone else. An automated turret is better in my opinion than Crawford's minigun, as the turret is helping in the fight autonomously, but Boris doesn't excel in gunfights, team support, nor anti-vehicle when compared to the other options. Coming in at C tier, and I've got Sundance. While she is certainly a gunfight-focused kit and her wingsuit can definitely help get the drop on enemies, she's gotten so many nerfs over the years that she's really just fallen apart. Her grenades are nowhere near what they used to be and have been limited so drastically that they're much more of a gimmick than a true game changer like they used to be. Overall, there's been so many other good gadgets and grenades added in recent months that Sundance feels less unique and is only good for hitting clips instead of the area denial monster that she used to be. Next in at C tier, I've got Angel. While Angel may have been an A or even S tier character years ago, his whole identity has really fallen apart as little ammo and medbags have been added, and maps like Redacted totally nullify his specialty. With his passive ability to give ammo on revive, and his inherent utility as a medic, he's not terrible, but neither does he single-handedly change the outcome of a gunfight like his peers Falk and Irish. Moving into B tier, and this is where I start to recommend characters. These are specialists who are actually very good at their job and begin to have the ability to change the tide of engagements. So at the bottom of B tier, I have Liz. Liz is great at what she does with a respawning rocket and the ability to see damaged enemy vehicles. However, she's a one-trick pony that's only worth utilizing oh so often. Liz is situational, but with a high-skilled player, she's one of the most annoying and potent specialists in the game. Next in at B tier, I've got Zane, a character who didn't seem all that special at first, but with the addition of Redacted and rebalancing of things like Irish's Sentry, his airburst can be a great option for area denial or clearing out rats. Just like Liz, Zane is situational, but with a regenerating grenade launcher and all the traits that come with an assault kit, he can be a great choice for a skilled player in specific moments, sort of like a ranged Sundance. Last in at B tier, I've got Casper, again a one-trick pony that's very good at one particular job. Casper is perhaps the most recon of the recon kits. With a ghillie suit, drone, and passive motion tracker, he's an intel gathering beast, and has only gotten better over time with the addition of thermals to his drone, which really helps rat out enemies and destroy gadgets. Casper is great at his job, but while the drone is a great way to help your team and annoy the enemy, it leaves the player vulnerable and occupies a lot of time, which keeps the player from earning kills or moving on objectives. Jumping into A tier, and I've got Dozer. Dozer has gotten so many balance changes he's sometimes hard to keep up with. But in his current state, he can be a very potent specialist if played correctly, as he's hard to counter and can really anchor a team's push. While he does offer a lot of survivability, his use case is rather narrow and is more focused around supporting a team. He's best at the front of a strong push, or on the other end of the spectrum, he's best when camping in a corner. He's got a particular playstyle, but once mastered, he's probably the most toxic and difficult to counter character in the game. Next in at A, I've got Rao. Rao has really gotten the short end of the stick for most of this game's existence. But over the past few months, ever since he got his last buff, Rao has been an absolute savage at what he does. While we all know Rao can mark and disrupt enemy vehicles, his most recent buff has made it so his hacks now damage the enemy vehicle and delay countermeasures. So if played correctly with a cooperative squad, Rao is an absolute menace. If supported correctly, he can single-handedly shut down an enemy's vehicle assault, but at the same time, he requires communication and a vehicle-rich map to be useful. Finally, in at the top of A tier, I've got Irish. Now, Irish has always floated around the top tiers of this game. Between his ability to heal, supply ammo, revive, and defend his team from explosives, he's essential to any large-scale battle, especially on maps like Redacted, where there's a lot of choke points, casualties, and explosive spam. However, since his nerf a few months back and how his gadget now goes into a cooldown period, he's much less effective and much less of a set-it-and-forget-it specialist. A good Irish has to balance his sentries, as well as take their time reviving because they're so much slower than Falk. Irish is a great pick and he's essential to most fights, but he's really been watered down since the beginning. Now we head into S tier. These are the specialists I can't live without, the ones I pick every game no matter what. With my aggressive playstyle that relies heavily on flanking and spawning behind the enemy, I have to kick off S tier with Belasco. In general, recon kits have always been some of the most useful in Battlefield, and 2042 is no exception. With claymores, tugs, a spawn beacon, and crazy passive traits, both Paik and Belasco are phenomenal options who like to work the flanks. Belasco's passive ability, which allows her to negate motion-triggered gadgets, is super elite during a flank, as it helps keep you off the radar and avoid traps. She's great at quickly getting behind the enemy, dropping a spawn beacon, and creating holes in the enemy's line. On the other hand, her infiltration device is perhaps one of the most underrated gadgets in the entire game. Its ability to disable marks, interfere with equipment, and disrupt the enemy's HUD is such a subtle way to change the tide of a fight. And to do so passively is what makes it so elite, unlike Casper's drone. Belasco is nearly perfect at altering the outcome of a battle from the shadows, inserting her squad behind the enemy lines, avoiding detection, and passively disrupting the enemy's attack. Next up in third place, I've got McKay. McKay is the gunfighter's kit. With his grappling hook and assault gadgets like the MedPen and SPH launcher, McKay moves farther, faster, and more dynamically than any other specialist. Throw in his nimble passive trait, and now you've got a player who can carry all sorts of explosives, heal themselves with a MedPen, gain verticality super quick, and outstrafe his enemies while aiming down sights. McKay is 100% for solo players who are looking to go head-to-head and get as many kills as possible, as quickly as possible. Coming in at second place, I've got Paik, and while Paik has seen significant nerfs over the years, her scanner and passive traits are still inherently strong abilities that no one else can match nor counter. While McKay is the solo gunfighter, Paik is the team-focused gunfighter. With all the same gadgets as Belasco and Casper, but now with the ability to see through walls and passively mark enemies via damage, Paik is an aggressive specialist that allows the player to move quickly, work off intel, and pick up easy kills. All the while, she's got a spawn beacon and claymore as a safety net. Finally, at the very top of S tier and the best specialist in the game, I've got to go with Falk. While I may be a bit biased as I'm a total Falk main with over 12,000 revives, I think I chose her as my main kit for a good reason. Falk can do everything that's essential to Battlefield. She's far and away the best medic with the fastest revives. She has the ability to endlessly heal herself and heal teammates while also carrying ammo. She revives players to full health, unlike Irish or Angel, and all of this adds up to more actions that puts more points on the scoreboard, and the ability to stay in the fight longer with self-healing as you keep your team in the fight. Falk is a great all-around pick as she nails the basics of Battlefield. Not to mention, after a couple dozen revives on a map like Redacted, you'll be at the top of the leaderboard and praised by your team. But guys, on screen right now is my entire ranking. Tell me why I'm wrong and drop your rankings below. For everything else Battlefield, stay tuned and subscribe, and as always, thank you guys for watching.